I genuinely never thought I could ever find a true enemy, but that has actually come into fruition. To anybody out there that is deciding to wake up at 3 in the morning, do the ice bath video, and then show me yourself working out, congratulations. You have automatically become number one on my SHIT list. Welcome on into Sunday Funday. It's Cole Thompson here. We have a jam-packed show Sunday. Yep. March 23rd. I know we got games going on, but before we get into more major games surrounding the SEC, besides Florida and UConn, make sure that you go ahead and tune into this video, like the video, hit the ring notification, and of course, subscribe to the channel because we talk college football every single day. Download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems. Follow me at Mr. Cole Thompson. Follow us at SEC Unfiltered. We're on everywhere social media-wise. And check out all of our great work found at secunfiltered.com. As always, we are proudly brought to you by our friends over at FANDUEL. Visit FANDUEL.com/SECU to get started with $200 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. Now is the perfect time to bet because it does feel like a lot of the overs are hitting and a lot of the favorites are cashing on in. So you should cash on in by going over to FANDUEL.com/SECU. Join in the madness today. Jam-packed show, as already said, is college football, and really more importantly, just college athletics seeing the end of the Cinderella stories. DJ Lagway injury update coming out of Gainesville. What's going on in Tuscaloosa with the quarterback battle? John Mateer's hype is getting a little bit too big for its britches, at least by some folks in the SEC. How do I feel about that situation? And what's going on in College Station, Texas, as we begin year 2 of the Mike Elko era? But we begin talking about Cinderella teams. Mostly this happens in March Madness because we all love the storylines of who's going to be that dark horse that goes on the epic run and beats the 2 seed or the 3 seed or the 5 seed. And so far, we really haven't had that. Yes, we did get McNeese State upsetting Clemson, but besides that, it's mostly been cut and dry. And now we're wondering, going into the final day of weekend 1, will we have a 12 seed, a 13 seed, somebody that comes out of the blue actually pivot themselves into the Sweet 16? And is this going to become the new norm in the world of college sports? Unfortunately, I think so. A lot of people have been saying this tournament's been boring. And in my opinion, I get your reasoning. I understand where you come from. There's no buzzer beaters. There's fewer upsets. There's more confusion and sloppy play from teams that we thought were on the bubble. And nobody's really kind of pigeonholed themselves as rosters that feel like they can go on this mad run. But has the tournament been as expected? For the most part, in my opinion, yes. And it's because, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, just like I was when it came to college football. The Cinderella dream is dead, and it's going to be dead moving forward. Now, I'm not saying that we can't see New Mexico with the other Patino get an upset today and advance to the Sweet 16, but I highly doubt that we're going to watch as the team that beat Marquette, who a lot of people didn't have trust with Shaka Smart, pulling an upset over Tom Izzo in round 2. Here's the reason why we have to talk about the Cinderella drama storyline no longer existing. What did teams like St. Peter's, Oakland, Loyola Chicago, George Mason, VCU, Butler, Florida Gulf Coast all have in common? 2 things: veteranship and continuity. Most of these rosters that we talked about were brought together over a span of 3 to 5 years. They had been dedicated on building a foundation and a culture that was sustainable to where when they made a run in the tournament, and it only happened every once in a blue moon, they were so well put together that they would beat the talent. And that became some of the beauty of what was March Madness, in my opinion. One of the things that really stood out, it was a perfect blend of talent versus tenacity. You go look anywhere between circa 2023, you watch as these veteran rosters that have been playing together. They understand where they have to go line up for 3-point shots, where they have to go line up underneath the basket to create second chance opportunities, taking on these high-profile Kentucky teams with future top 10 picks, or maybe it was a top 5 Syracuse team, or maybe it was a top 15 UConn roster back in the day when Kevin Ollie was coaching. And you would say to yourself, how were they winning? It was because they had that veteran play against these freshmen who have only been here for 1 season. So it became a narrative of what was going to be the new norm. The one and done teams going on an epic run to the Final Four, or the teams that played with grit and determination and had built a rapport ending up getting the upset. And so the cohesion versus the roster construction became an underlying storyline in the world of college athletics, mostly in March Madness, which is why we love the game. Now we enter NIL. And with NIL, you're no longer going to see that big time run because the junior from Oakland or Princeton or Florida Atlantic, they're going to be landing at a bigger program in 2025. Yeah, they looked awesome in their tournament. And now you're saying to yourself, well, what are we going to see moving forward for New Mexico? What are we going to see moving forward for Robert Morris? What are we going to see moving forward for a Grand Canyon for that matter? Well, nothing really, because of their star freshman that was averaging 22 points a game is not going to get looked at by Duke or UConn or Kansas, but Arkansas is going to make a run for him. Cincinnati will, Xavier will. Why not Marquette? You could throw in probably a team like Kansas State would go after him. They're going to make those runs. And so the rosters that we talk about that used to be really well established and building that identity, they no longer exist. Can anybody tell me where the leading scorer from Michigan this season came from? Anybody? Zolkic. He followed Dusty May from Florida Atlantic. How about JT Toppin? Anybody know where he played last year before he was killing it at Texas Tech down in Lubbock? He was at New Mexico. So these smaller schools are just becoming feeder programs for major institutions. And this is going to be the new norm in the world of NIL. You no longer have to wonder, hey, Robert Morris, a 15 seed that nearly beat Alabama before Alabama finally found it together in the last 4 minutes. What are they going to look like with Alvaro Figueroa, who put up a double-double? Well, nothing, because Alvaro is now going to get an offer from a Baylor or from a Vanderbilt. And now he's going to go there, make a lot of money, and be a reason why this team has now turned the corner. What about a team like True Washington with New Mexico? What's going to happen to him if they lose tonight? Well, Patino's probably going to get a phone call from his dad and say, hey, can I take this kid and send him to the Big East where St. John's is going to have an opportunity for us to run rampant for the next few years and actually compete against Dan Hurley? It's going to happen. And again, you're not going to see them go to these major institutions like Alabama, Auburn, or Duke, North Carolina even. But you are going to see them get opportunities to play elsewhere because of that is what happens in the world of NIL. You pay for the talent to come to your program. And this is the new norm in sports just in general. I remember having conversations with multiple people, especially on this channel right here, about what does the future look like for the college football playoff run? What does the future look like for teams that are trying to go on this epic path of being a Big 12 dark horse and then punching their ticket into the dozen dance? Well, you're going to get a first round exit, or you're going to get the conference championship and then have to play against a better opponent. It was nothing against Arizona State or Indiana or when Illinois was potentially in the running or SMU. I liked all those teams. And I actually believe that they belonged in the college football playoff. I am a purist. If we're going to have 12 teams, I want the most representation throughout the conferences. But I also understand it's a reality check. There's only about 6 or 7 teams every single year that can win the national title. And I'm not talking just about in college football. I'm talking about in college basketball. I'm talking about in college baseball. It's not going to be surprising when you watch Florida cut down the nets and then punch their ticket to Omaha. It won't be shocking if Alabama can go to the Elite Eight and then make it to the final round in the national championship out in TD Ameritrade Park. Those little things aren't shocking because if those are expected. There's 6 or 7 teams that look the part, feel the part, have the identity, and also have the resources to actually make those type of runs. Ohio State, $20 million later, is now hoisting up its first national title since 2014, yet can't beat Michigan. But it's not like they couldn't win a title because they couldn't beat an underwhelming Michigan squad last year. It's completely different in those instances. But this is going to be what happens moving forward in sports. In my opinion, Cinderella's dead. And the reality is that the best part about this tournament, we kind of all realized, hey, we don't need more. We don't need more teams to go ahead and enter for the college football playoff. Because there's people out there that are actually saying, hey, wouldn't it be great if the college football playoff had, 32 teams? No, 12 is already too many. But if we're going to have 12, we might as well put a cap on it, which we won't. Eventually, we're going to go to 14, then 16, then probably 24. But at least at this point, we all know, hey, guess what? We no longer have to worry about this actually expanding past a certain number. Sadly, the reality is moving forward is that we live in a world where Cinderella was paying attention to her curfew, gave the prince her number to text her in the morning, went home before midnight because the party got boring, and was in bed by 11:52. That's what we can expect. And it's because of NIL. Whether or not you like it, whether or not you're excited to see a team maybe go on a run, the new Cinderella is a 10-seeded Arkansas that went on a run late in the season of conference play, coached by one of the greatest minds in the sport that just needed to change the scenery after a dozen years in Lexington. or it's going to be a 9-seeded Baylor with a head coach that has already won a national title and ranks among the top 20 coaches among active wins. That is what Cinderella is going to be moving forward in the sport. I hate to break it to you. That is one of the processes about NIL. When you can start paying for talent that you believed was going to be really good and a foundation for a culture and an identity for a young up-and-coming team, you're swiping it out underneath the rug, you're taking your ball, and you're sending them to a bigger program. Welcome to 2025, the world of college football. That's where it is. Hate to break it to you. We have over 250 people watching right now, so if you really could, just like the video, hit the ring notification, and of course, subscribe to the channel because we talk college sports every single day, mostly college football. But I just want to get my 2 cents in on the Cinderella run because I see far too many people complaining about this tournament when really this was going to be expected. If you really want to go ahead and break it all down, you shouldn't have had those big upsets like I had with High Point and with New Mexico. Like, you should have just go ahead and pick the favorites because usually you walk away a winner. You know who's not going to be a favorite this year, at least in the world of college football? It's going to be Florida, and largely it's due to their schedule, but also because of we still have questions when it comes to Billy Napier. And now we have more questions on what is this offense going to look like in 2025? Because according to reports from Andy Staples of On3, DJ Lagway more than likely is going to be shut down for the rest of spring practice. Now, he may throw very seldomly. He wasn't going to play in any spring-type performance. But now there's reports that the shoulder injury, they're going to get a second opinion. They're going to look more into detail for it. And hopefully it's not that big of a concern. He'll be ready to go by week 1 of the regular season. Now, let's cut to the chase. This sucks for Florida. It does. Whether or not you are a Florida fan, whether or not you just love the SEC, this sucks for Florida. And why? Because of vibes. Vibes was the main reason why Florida was winning last season. They were able to get that signature moment where they were playing well against Georgia, and then Lagway gets hurt. They bring in the Harvard kid, and so then you're saying to yourself, okay, well, what's changing? Well, they never lost the process of what was their identity. They went 6-1 down the stretch. They got 2 top 25 wins, knocked out a team from making it to the college football playoff, got the bowl victory over Tulane, and largely that was due to the fact that they had a good quarterback in DJ Lagway. He went 6-1 as a starter. He eventually was playing up to speed. He had his growing pains, but who doesn't in their first season as a starting quarterback in the SEC? He pushed his team ahead, and fans got to see the version that came out of Willis, Texas that was a 5-star talent and a guy that most people believed was going to be a difference maker for Billy Napier and saving his job. And so what's next? You want to see that next step forward. You want to see a step in the right direction. You want to feel like that your team is trending upward rather than staying idle, especially when you still have a schedule that features Miami and Florida State, who are 2 very unknowns in the ACC, let alone in college football in general. Still have games against Texas A&M, still have games against LSU, still have games against Texas. It's still a tough schedule. And now you won't be able to see your quarterback in action at least until the summer workouts, at the bare minimum. But should Florida fans be worried? That's the main question that most people are wondering at this point. I would say it's a 2 at best. Because let me ask you guys something. You already know what you're going to get out of DJ Lagway, at least when it comes to his floor. He's a dude that's going to be a pocket passer with a little bit of mobility, get you probably 30 touchdowns in a season, and maybe if you're lucky, the interception ratio will slice in half, and you'll still be a guy that has your team playing for at least meaningful football in the month of November. That's his floor. And so I don't need to see that whether or not it's against Long Island or whether it's in the summer months. I need to know that he's ready to go when it comes to the Miami game. Maybe even the LSU game if you want to go to that level. But by the time we get to mid-September, I want to know that he is locked in, ready to go, because if he's not, now we got some serious concerns. But besides that, I'm not really that worried at this point. The way I think about DJ Lagway and the way I think about this situation is a lot like having an ace in your rotation. And he's on the 15-day IL, which is really going to be like actually a month. The reason I say that is because of there's only one positive about putting your ace on the IL. And it's get to see the rest of the rotation. How is your team going to act? How is your team going to play in a 7-game period to where you now know we're good enough to go on this run? We're good enough to figure out how well we can play together. And that's really what you got at this point when it comes to a lot of the young pieces. We have no idea what we're going to get with some of these younger receivers, guys like Nashawn Montgomery or Dallas Wilson or Vernell Brown, guys who Billy Napier and the staff, if you talk to anybody down in Florida, they're really high on. They believe that every one of them could be day one contributors. Maybe not elite players, maybe not the faces of the team, but certainly guys that you can build a foundation around. They really like their tight end, Micah Jones. They like running back Duke Clark. That's like having a good bullpen. Like, yeah, certainly you don't want to use them for 6, 7 innings, but an inning or two, a touchdown or two, a couple of drives, you're content with that. And so I want to see what they look like. How are they adapting to Billy Napier's offense? What are we seeing from them that makes them stand out moving forward into a season where, hey, maybe this is a Florida team that has that secondary punch on offense. And once they're all caught up to speed, as soon as they and DJ Lagway are working together, now we feel a lot better. I want to know what I'm getting for the returning offensive pieces around DJ Lagway. Jaden Baugh, one of the more slept-on running backs last year that did not get enough attention down the stretch. He is now going to be the bell cow back in Gainesville. And I think he has an opportunity to lead the SEC in rushing, yards after contact, rushing touchdowns. The way that Dylan Sampson took over games last year for Tennessee, I could see that from Jaden Baugh, but I want to see it in spring. I want to see what I'm getting in a healthy Eugene Wilson for the first time in over 6 months. What's Aiden Mizell, the vertical threat that should have had a bigger role last season, going to do in year 2 of this system? What about Hayden Hansen at tight end? J. Michael Sturdivant, it's a name that everybody in the SEC should have circled on their calendar if you play against Florida, because you talk to people down in Gainesville, they feel like that he is as good as advertised and could be as good as Elijah Badger was last season. Hit in the transfer portal. Just was not a good fit for what they want to run at UCLA. Gets changed the scenery, goes from one coast to the other coast, and now there is a belief that maybe Sturdivant could actually end up being one of the fixtures of this Florida offense. But I want to see what he's going to look like in practice, because I already know what DJ Lagway can look like in this Billy Napier system. But what is J. Michael Sturdivant going to be? Just a vertical threat? Can he work as a better route runner? Can he make plays in the open field? Those are the little details that I think are more important about Florida this spring than the quarterback concern. Now, when we get to the summer and we get to easily, early July, and now we're getting to SEC Media Days and we're hearing that, well, Lagway still isn't really throwing. He's not working out with his teammates. He still is kind of going through the rehabilitation process. Certainly, you can have your moments where you want to be a bit concerned, but even still, until we get to fall camp, as long as DJ Lagway is good to go, but I would say week 3, because lo and behold, I don't know if you know this, if you lose to Miami, that's a big loss. If you lose to Long Island, that's a culture problem. So it's a little thing that you probably don't want to do with or without DJ Lagway. But that's what I'm more so concerned. Would it be nice to hear over on the message boards hearing that DJ Lagway and Hayden Hansen would be one of the best young duos in the SEC after just this spring? Absolutely. How about an Aiden Mizell taking that next step forward, and number 2 is on corking 150 yards down the field. And look at that. Now we're right back on pace. Yes, people would love to hear that. But what would I rather hear for the long term? That my ace of the rotation is going to be missing game 1 of the World Series because if I decide to pitch him down the stretch, or that he is not going to be able to play at all because of, well, I was too busy working with him. I would much rather know that my guy is good to go for the playoffs in the early month of October than wondering what is he going to look like in July. And it's the same thing when it comes to college football right now. I'm not worried about what he's going to be doing in March when I have to worry more so what is he going to be doing in September? What's he going to look like in October when we have these tough games? When we got to go travel to face off against LSU? When we got to go to the Grove and face off against Ole Miss? When we got to welcome in Texas to our territory? That's more concerning to me than anything else. So I'm looking at most things for Florida outside of the quarterback room. That is the way that I have been about this from the get-go. Because you got to remember, as much as the offense can take another step forward, and I believe that they can, I'm very high on what this offense can do in 2025. I'm looking at this defense and still have my concerns. And honestly, everybody in the SEC, everybody in Gainesville, everybody who believes in the Swamp taking that next step forward, they should have their concerns. Because remember, this was one of the worst run defenses in college football last year. It was one of the worst run defenses in the SEC. They ranked 14th in yards allowed, and they lost multiple starters this offseason to the transfer portal. No more Jack Pyburn. He's now down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. No more Kelby Collins. He's now in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing because the pieces that you brought in maybe were better than them, but we still got to see them take that step forward. Because I'm looking at this Florida schedule and saying if the offense can average 25 to 30 points a game, that's good. We're in a really good spot. Lagway's taking that next step forward. We feel confident in our rushing attack. We have a veteran offensive line with 4 returning starters, great tight end play. But we can't continue to ask Lagway to go ahead and win us games because our defense can't stop cold, save their life. because they're still allowing 130 rushing yards a game to Georgia, LSU, Ole Miss. Long Island comes out week 1 and the Sharks are biting at the bits and they're having 230 rushing yards. We can have that. So I got to make sure that this spring, my entire focus is watching as the defense is taking that next step forward. I would much rather read, hey, don't look now, but quarterbacks are having trouble winning at the point of attack because of the secondary is making plays. This offensive line that has 4 returning starters, they're getting bullied up front by the newcomers, the 5 stars that we got waiting in the wings over the last 2 years. That would give me a sense of pride and more so a sense of relaxation than hearing anything about DJ Lagway at this point. So is there a reason to be concerned? Absolutely. Is there a reason to say that DJ Lagway is going to be hurt by week 1, that he's not going to play at all this year? No, absolutely not either. Right now, just chill. Take a deep breath. Don't worry about life. Don't worry about anything going on in the world of college athletics when it comes to Florida football, at least at the quarterback position. There's no reason to make October concerns a problem before opening day. That's literally what we're doing right now whenever we break down anything with DJ Lagway. Just my 2 cents on the word. Don't think you need to be concerned at all. So let's just take a chill pill. Here's what I will say that you need to be concerned on. Your brackets. And more importantly, who are you going to be picking in the next round? And if you are going to be picking, make sure you do so at FanDuel, because this bracket season, FanDuel is letting you make the call. Right now, new customers can get over $200 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. So let's just say you throw down $5 today that Illinois is going to lose big to Kentucky. You win that bet, you get $200 in bonus bets. It's what you've been waiting for to join, and now there's no better time. Tournament action is fully locked and loaded almost every single day, and FanDuel has amazing bets like spreads, totals, game props, and so much more. Some of my favorite plays for today's at-least matchups, I'm really high on Alabama, -5.5 against St. Mary's. I'm taking the +1.5 for Kentucky. I am hammering the +11. I'm hammering the -11.5 for Duke, and if you want to throw a little bit of money down right now, we know what the lead is. You may want to take UConn +5.5. Florida, I think, wins, but with 2:30 left in the first half, just saying, that +5 feels pretty confident. However you want to bet, make sure you visit FanDuel.com/SECU and get in today for the college hoops action all tournament long. Disclaimer: must be 21 and present in select states and 18 plus in DC. First online real wager money only. $5 first deposit is required. Bonus issue with non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. FanDuel is offering gambling online wagering in Kansas under the agreement of the Kansas Star Casino LLC. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelpline.ma.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Now that we paid the bills, let's talk about a team that I'm very high on and a team that many of you know that I like a lot because if I went there, Alabama. Quarterback battle. What's going on in Tuscaloosa right now between Austin Mack, Keelan Russell, and Ty Simpson? And who has the starting lead? Before we do that, just real quickly, make sure you like the video and hit the ring notification. That way you keep up to date with everything that we got going on right here on the channel. And there will be live streams throughout the day reacting to all of the basketball content, so you don't want to miss out. Everyone is pumped up about the quarterback battle going on down in Tuscaloosa. Year 2 of the Kalen DeBoer era is underway, and it feels like that we got some talking points. Now, here's the bottom line. It's going to be one of the biggest talking points in college football right now. Spoiler alert. Name a time that you haven't talked about a team that is supposed to be at a program championship, national caliber winning title, have expectations to be in the college football playoff, and have broken in a brand new starting quarterback during spring football. If you allowed me to finish that sentence, I'm sorry, you were lying to yourself. We hear it all the time. But here's also what we're hearing right now. According to On3, Austin Mack is turning heads at practice. He's looking sharp. He's looking confident. He's looking attentive. He's looking decisive. And there are some people that I've spoken to around the program that says, yes, whether or not you want to admit that Ty Simpson is there, that Keelan Russell is a star in the making, there is a legit shot for Austin Mack to win the job. And I hate to break it to all the Ty Simpson truthers out there. This was always going to be the case. Whether or not you want to believe that, yes, Austin Mack comes on in from Washington, he'll just be a lowly backup. No. He was always going to have his fair shake. Now, I'm going to preface this before I go any further. I do not want one of you cutting the clip up and saying, I'm saying Austin Mack is winning the starting job on March 23rd, 2025. Don't want to be coming back here in July and then you saying, look at when you said that Austin Mack would be QB1. And then here we got Ty Simpson taking control and he's now with the first team reps. But it isn't shocking that Austin Mack is looking as good as well, especially because of who just got to campus. One Mr. Ryan Grubb. Grubb handpicked Mack as his quarterback to run the offense in Seattle. That was his guy from the get-go. He was viewed by many up in Husky Stadium as the heir apparent to Michael Penix. He was a guy that many people believed could easily fit in the system and take that next step forward. So the system is derived from Kalen DeBoer's offense. When they said, oh, I'm going down to Tuscaloosa, he handpicked him to follow from Seattle down to the Southeastern Conference. So let's just call a spade a spade. Anybody who was doubting Austin Mack that was not going to fit in the system, not take another step forward with 3 years underneath who is this coach, and more importantly, now that he's got the right-hand man back, you're out of your mind. There was always going to be a case and an edge for Mack to be QB1 once Ryan Grubb arrived to town. It's a good thing in my opinion, because if you know anything about this sport, playing quarterback not only is the most challenging position in all of college athletics for my money, but it also makes everyone's job easier when your coordinator and your quarterback are speaking the same language. When you're on the same dialect, the same wavelength, when you're able to combat everything that goes on behind closed doors and you're working as a team, life is a breeze. And it's a breeze for everyone. It's a breeze for the running back room. It's a breeze for the offensive line to know how they have to block, which way they have to turn. It's a breeze for wide receivers, finding ways to get open, knowing where that ball is going to travel, knowing if it's going to overshot or if it's going to be in line to where they can just make a play for an easy 6 points. So having Austin Mack playing really well in spring is not a negative towards Keelan Russell, and it's not a positive towards Mack. It's a good sign about the quarterback room in Alabama. Now it's time for me to say the hard part to Mac Nation out there that believes, hey, he's won the starting job right now. No, he has not. Because, I hate to break it to you, it's March 23rd. Nobody's won the starting job anywhere. And if you're hearing it online, and if you're hearing it from other people, and you're hearing it from other broadcast crews, hate to be the bearer of bad news, they're doing it for the clicks because they know that you're going to be locked in and paying attention to what they have to say, not really caring about the sport in itself. So Cole Thompson here is ready to tell you nobody's won the starting job at Alabama. Could be Keelan Russell, could be Austin Mack, could be Ty Simpson. And more importantly, can we stop at the Ty Simpson hate? I have seen so many negative comments about Ty Simpson since really last season. And it all derived from the fact that they never went to him in games. Jalen Milroe was struggling in the Oklahoma game. Jalen Milroe was struggling at times in the Tennessee game. And they said, you know what? We're going to run it out with 4. He's going to be our dude because we just don't trust Ty Simpson. Simpson, good dude, like the person, not a guy that we can trust as a quarterback. You ever thought that maybe Kalen DeBoer said to himself as he was sitting in his office wondering what was wrong with the offense? How about instead of ruining a kid's confidence, I just keep the kid that we know is not going to be back here next year. And we're still in the running to go to the college football playoff. And we still feel like that we're a team that can absolutely make some noise in the postseason. And even if we don't win our bowl game against a lowly Michigan squad, it could be worse. We could end up going 6-6, and I could be on the hot seat. So ever thought of that? Or do you just want to think that Ty Simpson sucked, and so now it's just a derived narrative? We have no idea what Ty Simpson's going to be because we've barely seen him play in the last 2 years. Barely played with Nick Saban, barely played with Kalen DeBoer. So let's go ahead and hit pause on Ty Simpson actually meeting expectations. If he wins the starting job, don't come back here and say it's such a shock. No, it isn't. He's been in Tuscaloosa for years. He's built a rapport with the community. And more importantly, he has a good grasp of what Ryan Grubb's offense is. And he was pushed forward by 2 really quality quarterbacks to win the starting job. So it won't be a shock. And it won't be a shock for also the Keelan Russell stance. Because I'm going to say the other part real fast. If Keelan Russell wins the starting job, nobody should really be shocked. Surprised, potentially, maybe a little, because the guy just arrived on campus like 5 minutes ago and now he's crushing it. But he was one of the best quarterbacks coming out of high school, Duncanville, Texas. And he's been on campus for 8 months by the time that they traveled out to Tallahassee to take on Florida State. That's what we're going to be talking about. So You're going to tell me that in 8 months, he hasn't built a rapport with the young wide receivers. He hasn't taken that next step forward when it comes to his progression. He knows the offense in and out. And so it's a surprise that now week one, with the talent and the expectations that we had for him, that he is not going to be good enough. No, absolutely not. Now, what I will say is he's got to earn the starting job. And that's just the case for really anybody in college football, but it's a standard I have for all freshmen. Prove to me why you are the best player on the field. I got 3 dudes who are veterans, been in college system for at least the better part of the last 12 months. Prove to me that you are better than them. Leave no doubt that you could come in and run the offense better than they ever could. And as long as you do that, who am I to judge? Who am I to say that's a problem? If he ends up doing all those things, he ends up being the best quarterback, and you're reading the message boards on Bama 247, or you're reading On 3, and they're saying, hey, Keelan Russell is as advertised, it's not a shock. It isn't. But at the same time, everything that we're hearing right now should be taken with a grain of salt. Nobody, in my opinion, is a favorite to win the starting job. Now, if you want to go ahead and place your favorites over at FanDuel, which you can't, but if you want to, I absolutely think that you should, and go with your gut. But I think every single one of them is in a really good spot. And here's the best part of all. If all 3 quarterbacks are good enough to win the starting job at the University of Alabama in Kalen DeBoer's system, and you're getting back a veteran wide receiver room headlined by Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard, you get Cole Adams fully healthy. Oh, and Isaiah Horton comes on in from Miami. You get better offensive line play. Your defense underneath Kane Womack is taking another step forward. The veterans that you're seeing in the secondary are playing well. Then doesn't that feel like a team that probably is going to go to the college football playoff? And isn't that the goal down in Tuscaloosa every single year? Make the tournament, make a run, and prove why you are still one of college football's finest. So who really cares at this point which quarterback or which flavor of ice cream that you're talking about you want running your system? If all 3 can actually be known as QB1, that's a victory in itself for Alabama. Because what that's saying is that the other pieces, the supporting cast, the things that could derail a season for a game, but not for the entire year, those are the things that we got to work on. So Austin Mack may be killing it right now in camp. That's not shocking. Keelan Russell may look to be the part of a 5-star quarterback. Hate to break it to you. It's not going to be that shocking. Ty Simpson, the veteran who's been in the system for years and been at the school for years, is the favorite to win the starting job. Not that shocking because it's March 23rd. We have not seen live reps for these guys in actual marquee moments. We're just hearing things coming out of camp. Any one of these guys can win the starting job. And if one of them takes that necessary step forward, congratulations, Alabama. You're right back in the college football playoff hunt in year 2. But of course, there's going to be people out there that will say Kalen DeBoer is overrated. Never should have gotten the job to begin with. They should have gone with Steve Sarkisian because if it would have fit the Nick Saban culture. I've heard the story many a times. Hate to break it to you. You're going to be proven this year why you were wrong from the get-go, and Kalen DeBoer was always the number 1 hire. We have over 400 people watching, so real quickly, if you could, like the video, hit the re-notification, and of course, subscribe to the channel because we talk college football every single day. 2 more quick subjects for you, and then we're going to get on out of here. I know we got college basketball on. You don't want to hear me rambling about sports, at least in the world of college football. But I want to talk about the John Mateer hype. So if you're a Sooner fan, let me first make this clear. I have been with you from the get-go. There were many people out there that decided to turn their backs on you when you went to the SEC last season. Bigger platforms, bigger names. Cole Thompson didn't. Cole was right here from the get-go and told you, hey, watch out. I think Oklahoma's going to be fine. They're going to have the right personnel. And I was wrong, so I have to eat crow. Jackson Arnold was not as advertised. But then again, I also didn't like the Seth Luttrell hire, so I kind of have to pat my back on that one too. Regardless, I have been with you from day one. Now we're hearing people talk about John Mateer and how he is looking in camp. And you see some of the throws. And the social media team, by the way, for Oklahoma, absolutely deserves a raise. No questions about it. How they have been delivering content for you is probably intoxicating. But now we're saying to ourselves, is there too much hype surrounding John Mateer going into 2025? So much so that he will never be able to meet the expectations, and sooner or later, he's going to transfer, or he's just going to be another run-of-the-mill quarterback in the SEC. The hype that I've been hearing a lot of comparisons to, at least from the folks that I talk to in this industry, is Nico Iamaleava. Remember last year, Nico, Tennessee trained, people were saying that after the bowl game with Iowa, don't look now, Nico's the truth. Throw some money down on Nico to win the Heisman Trophy. Make sure that when we're going to the college football playoff in 2024, it's because of Nico. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. No, it isn't. The comparisons, nowhere near it. Because Nico barely played. Nico was in for one bowl game and a couple of drives here and there behind Joe Milton. And he probably should have been the starter over Joe Milton to begin with. That's just my 2 cents of the word. But regardless, it's not the same. John Mateer is coming on in from Pullman, Washington, after being one of the more diverse and acrobatic quarterbacks of 2024. He had over 4,000 total scrimmage yards, 45 touchdowns, and fit the bill of what Ben Arbuckle wants to do. He carried himself with the swagger and mentality out in Washington State to be a team that people were actually starting to fear at one point could go on some type of run for the college football playoff. I had them as a top 15 team at one point last year, and it wasn't because of the defense. It was because of John Mateer and Kyle Williams. I loved what I saw from Pullman, Washington. So it's stark difference between Nico and John Mateer. I believe that we're not giving enough hype to John Mateer right now. It just being completely honest. Because of the quarterback play was so horrendous last year between Michael Hawkins Jr. and Jackson Arnold that the only place to go was up. And you're watching right now as Giovanni Gibson, the transfer from Arkansas Pine Bluff, is looking like a future wide receiver one. And you're now seeing that you're getting better tight end play and you're getting better play from your running back room and that this is a good system. John Mateer is looking the part and he's uncorking them. Beautiful dimes right in the breadbasket for 6 points. And we're supposed to act like that for Oklahoma, a blue blood program, a program that has massive expectations every single year, like Texas, like Alabama, like Texas A&M, like Georgia, like Florida, like Tennessee, like every other major institution that does believe that they belong in that running of college football's finest, that we should be underselling him. What if what we saw last year out in Pullman was just the beginning of the John Mateer hype? What if what we saw last year was the appetizer of what is going to be his tenure of college football? We're talking about a Baker Mayfield-esque type player? I believe so. The way he carries himself in practice, the way that he bets on himself, the way that he thinks that how he acts is what you saw from Baker that made him a household name and eventually a Heisman Trophy winner and a reason why Oklahoma was going to the college football playoff. That's the type of mentality you need in Norman, Oklahoma. And he had that out in Pullman, Washington last year. The other thing is that they've already have a good relationship because Ben Arbuckle is the offense coordinator down in Oklahoma. And his quarterback coach that was in Pullman, he's also in Norman, Oklahoma. So there's no learning a new thing or a new system when it comes to John Mateer. It's simply, hey, remember what we did during that game against San Jose State? We're going to do that against Alabama. Hey, remember what we did in that game against Oregon State? We're going to do that against Vanderbilt. Hey, remember what we did when we had to play against, I don't know, New Mexico? We're going to do that against Tennessee. That's what it is. So when you add all that together and you say to yourself, John Mateer taking that next step forward with as good as wide receiver play as he had in Pullman, probably a better offensive line, which I know many people are going to say that's a lie. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. The type of talent that they're bringing into Norman, Oklahoma, it's going to be better than what he had out in the Pac-12 last year. It is. Not by much, but it will be better. With an already balanced identity for this system, we need to be hyping up John Mateer even more. And more importantly, it's the offseason. Yes, there is such a thing as an offseason in the world of college football. I don't care what anybody says. There is a downtime. You want to believe that right now, before any game has been played, before any snap has gone through, before anything has ever happened in this sport, that your team is good enough to win a national championship. And I don't think that Oklahoma is good enough to win a national championship right now. But who am I to tell people out in the highland of what is that state? What is that vicinity out in the brinks that love the crimson and cream, that your team can't do it all and prove me and everyone else wrong? Everyone right now is 0-0. So go ahead and buy into the John Mateer hype. Because number one, what we're seeing in camp, it's completely different than what we were hearing last year out of camp with Jackson Arnold and the turnover rate. What we're hearing right now coming out of camp, it's a good sign that, hey, things are only going to take that next step forward. Things are only going to get better within time. If anything, what I'm worried about is still the offensive line having its issues. The wide receiver is going to be injured. Who's going to be that third name that can actually take another step forward? What is the defense going to look like when it comes to the loss of talent and the veteranship of guys like Danny Stutzman and Billy Bowman? But I don't worry about the quarterback. In fact, that's the one thing that I'm not worried about this year. Last season, it felt like Oklahoma will live or die based off of how Jackson Arnold and Michael Hawkins plays. Now, in my opinion, it's, hey, John Mateer is going to put up 4,700 yards and 55 touchdowns. But Oklahoma still could go 7-5 because the offensive line didn't get better. The defensive line took a step back. They were allowing too many explosive plays in the secondary. That's where my brain is right now when it comes to Oklahoma football. Has nothing to do with the quarterback. So buy in. Drink that Crimson Kool-Aid, Sooner Nation, because you got the dude. And as long as you got the dude, you have a chance. Not saying it's a chance to go on an epic run and prove everybody wrong that says that this is going to be a team that underachieves. I'm saying good enough to be a team that makes it maybe to 8-4, 9-3, gets a win over Texas in the Red River Shootout, and punches their ticket at least to a 9-win season. That's what I'm saying right now. We have over 400 people watching. Make sure that you like the video, hit the ring notification, and of course, subscribe to the channel. One more thing that I want to get to, some house cleaning things. Texas A&M is back at spring practice. Now, for many of you who didn't know, before I joined SEC Unfiltered, I worked covering Texas A&M exclusively. I was on the beat, was covering the team, loved what I saw from A&M, loved the culture of A&M. I know, it's a cult, but it's a fun cult. And honestly, everybody in college football in the SEC, how you root for your teams, the sickos, you're all cults. So I have some inside information when it comes to Texas A&M. Is my main point that I'm trying to get to. They really like what they're seeing from Marcel Reed. And it's largely due to the fact that they like what they've seen from Kevin Concepcion. So the wide receiver number 1 for NC State is currently crushing it in practice. He has been phenomenal in the slot. He is making plays left and right, and he has built a very healthy rapport with number 10, who is now bona fide QB1. No questions about him or Connor Wigman. It's just going to be him, straight up. The question that you have, if you're Texas A&M, actually has nothing to do with the offense. It has everything to do with the defense. Because yes, they did lose some talent last year, whether you like it or not. You no longer have Shamar Stewart. You no longer have Shamar Turner. Nick Scorton was a one and done for your team. You still got some talent in the secondary. Bryce Anderson's coming back in at safety. You still got Torian York, who, for my money, is the best linebacker when it comes to heart and hustle. And if that was an award I could give out, number 21 would get the award every single time. But that's where the questions and the concerns lie. Because remember last season, how many times Texas A&M was able to kind of take that next step forward? And it felt like this was the week. They went 7-1 to begin the year. Whether you agree that this was an overrated team or not, we're not here to argue. What we're here to say is that what the record said was they were winning games. They beat LSU in a comeback fashion. They beat Arkansas. They went to Mississippi State. They didn't lose that game. They were able to stabilize themselves as a roster that was taking the necessary steps forward. But then what happened? Late in the second half, they had too many explosive plays a lot on the ground. The defense was allowing arm tackles, and it felt like that the secondary was giving up far too many touchdowns. So you add all that together, they ended up losing four of their last 5 games, including the Las Vegas Bowl. That's where the concerns still lie down in College Station. Now, the good news is that they like some of the defensive players that they added in. They really like Samuel Pemba from Georgia. They really like Julian Humphrey from Georgia. They really like some of their younger players taking another step forward. They like that they have a veteran at cornerback in Will Lee, who comes on in from Kansas State and arguably, for my money, was the most consistent member of the secondary last year. They like what they have in their front seven. They think that Cassius Howell is going to be a stud in the making, arguably one of the better defensive linemen. And he was a rotational dude last year. Do not be shocked to see him have the same impact that Nick Scorton had in 2024, only in 2025. He has really upped it up. And they do like where their offense is, which is a good thing. It's year 2 for Colin Klein. And the thing about Colin Klein's system is that you want to see progression from your quarterback, who is known for his mobility, but also does have a cannon. And he does have the strengths that really stand out in the SEC that could make A&M a legit force. They also really like what they have at wide receiver with Mario Craver. They love the fact they have stability on the offensive line. And they are going to have the deepest running back room in college football. I mean, the SEC next year. I'm not saying it's going to be the best. I'm not saying it's going to be one that we're talking about that leads A&M to the college football playoff. I won't go as far to say that they're going to have the most production, but they are going to have the deepest. Amari Daniels is a starter. Le'Veon Moss is a starter. Reuben Owens is a starter. And they're all rotating in to a very run-oriented system that loves to utilize the ground game. That's a win for Texas A&M. Whether you like it or not, it's something that you can buy your stock into. And they also believe that Marcel Reed is going to be a quarterback that is better as a passer, takes a necessary step forward when it comes to his decision-making, and he's going to have a really good supporting cast when it comes to wide receivers. Does it stink losing Micah Hudson, the 5-star that probably is going back to Lubbock, Texas? Yeah, it does. I loved him as a talent. Thought he was a really solid overall playmaker, and I think that he can be one of the better wide receivers in college football with the right system. But you do have Kevin Concepcion. You still have some younger players. You still really like what you got in Terry Bussey. You still really like what you have in Mario Craver. You still really like what you have in Jerome Miles coming on in, the 4-star. So there's a lot to take necessary steps forward. The thing that I want to hear coming out of College Station by the end of practices, by the time we get to the maroon and white game, is that Texas A&M's offense can be the backbone this year. But they are still having its struggles against the defense. Because if I can get a top 50 defense for Texas A&M with Mike Elko, a defensive guru, somebody that lives, eats, and breathes defensive football, to me, that only shows a sign that we are not only just trending in the right direction, but we're progressing the way that we never did underneath Jimbo Fisher. We're still waiting for a second 10-win season in College Station since the Aggies joined the SEC. And it's why the 8-4 jokes run rampant all the time, because of whether or not you like it, it's become a reality. I want to hear that, yes, the offense is good. The offense can lead us to wins. We can go march in and play against Missouri on the road, and it's not going to be a problem. We can go welcome in Florida, and we're going to kick their ass to oblivion. When South Carolina comes to town, they're going to feel the 12th man's energy, and Marcel Reed is going to get his revenge against the Norris Sellers. But I also want to hear the offense still is missing a few pieces, and that's okay, because our defense is delivering its end of the bargain. We feel really good about the direction that Mike Elko has this team. We feel really good about the direction that Jay Bateman has this team. The linebackers are playing well. They're flying to the football in the secondary. The defensive line is adding pressure against our veteran offensive line. We're going to have our fair share of struggles. But you know what? South Bend, Indiana is not ready for the 12th man to go ahead and make its presence known against a playoff team. Alabama, if we were to face off against them in the SEC championship, would have its fair share of struggles with us. We don't care what the hype is around LSU or around Florida or any one of these teams that you all believe are better than us, and we're going to have that 8-4 season. Our defense is going to shut you up. And I still haven't heard that just yet. Now, it's early in camp, and we still could see a lot of things go wrong, but the second that I hear that coming out of College Station, the more I feel prepared that A&M may actually be ready to take the step forward. Because it does seem like Marcel Reed is progressing. It does seem like there's a good intellect on what you got in the running back room. You love hearing that Casey Concepcion, one of the more underrated receivers last year, and I think a breakout star in the making in the SEC, is hitting his stride and really building that nice rapport. But none of it matters, just like it doesn't for TJ Lagway, if you can't take the step forward defensively. If you can do all that, congratulations. I really believe that A&M may actually have an identity that can work. But I've been burned before. I've been burned again, usually on the offensive side, not the defensive side. Right now, I got to hear more positives coming out of the defense than negatives. And when that occurs, we'll have more to talk about. But we've been going for over 47 minutes. Like the video, hit the ring notification. Go enjoy your Sunday fun day watching college basketball. And before we get on out of here, I want to say one thing. You may hate Big Blue Nation. A lot of you may not be a fan of what goes on with Mark Pope's squad. And some of you are probably tired of hearing about Kentucky being a program that actually deserves relevance. And this could be the beginning of the end. You may feel that way. There is a reporter that works in this industry that loves to make fun of the SEC whenever she can. And she is talking mad smack about how the Big Ten is kicking the SEC's keister right now. So we all must rally together as an SEC entity, whether or not you're in Austin, whether you're in Nashville, Starkville, Gainesville, you may hate that Big Blue Nation, but just to silence the crowd, because it is a Big Ten SEC game, you are pulling for Kentucky like your life depended on it. Like you have the last bullet in the chamber of Russian roulette. And you're like, I am not pulling this one. It's a 50-50 shot. You are pulling for Kentucky just to knock her off of her peg. Just a little bit, okay? Like the video, hit the ring notification. I'll be back tomorrow at some point, Overtime Drive with Dave Shoemate. There'll be live streams throughout the day, so you won't want to miss out. Take care. God bless from all of us here at SEC Unfiltered. And remember, you only live life once. What's the point of even trying? Peace.